Okay, so you want to talk about Harry and Meghan? Buckle up because this is a wild ride. I mean, remember when they were like the golden couple? Everyone was obsessed with the fairy tale wedding, the cute babies, the whole thing. And then, bam, they ditched the royal family, moved to California, and suddenly they're the villains. What happened? Well, a lot of it boils down to this. They thought they could control the narrative and they were dead wrong. They wanted to be victims, but they came across as entitled and out of touch. And Hollywood, which initially fawned over them, eventually turned on them hard. It started subtly. You had people like Jimmy Kimmel making cracks, pointing out the obvious hypocrisy of fleeing a supposedly racist England only to land in America? I mean, come on. Kimmel's joke was brutal, saying they should hope the kid looks more like Meghan than Harry because Harry kind of looks like Screech from Saved by the Bell. Ouch. But it wasn't just Kimmel. It was a slow burn, a growing realization that maybe, just maybe, Harry and Meghan weren't exactly who they were pretending to be. Think about the racism claims. Of course, racism is a serious issue and it needs to be addressed, but the way Harry and Meghan handled it, it just felt off, like they were weaponizing it for their own gain. And people started to see through it. They were complaining about racism while living in multi-million-dollar mansions surrounded by celebrities. It just didn't ring true. Then came the Netflix deal, and that's when things really went south. Remember that documentary? The one where they complained about everything while simultaneously showcasing their lavish lifestyle? It was peak rich people problems, and the internet went nuts. The pretzel bag thing? I mean, seriously, pouring pretzels from one bag into another and acting like it's some kind of revolutionary life hack? It was so tone deaf, so out of touch with reality that it became a meme. People were mocking her relentlessly, and rightfully so. It was the perfect example of their disconnect from the real world. And then there was the water ceremony. Oh God, the water ceremony. Apparently tap water isn't good enough for Meghan. She needs water from a spring in her backyard, infused with flower petals. It was so pretentious, so over the top, that it was almost comical. It just solidified the image of them as being completely detached from reality. But the thing is, it wasn't just random internet trolls piling on. It was comedians, influencers, even other celebrities. People with huge platforms were openly mocking them, and that's when you knew things had really changed. The tide had turned, they were no longer untouchable, they were fair game. And the British comedians, they were even harsher. Jimmy Carr straight up asked how a self-proclaimed feminist could give up her job to marry into the royal family. The hypocrisy was glaring, and he wasn't afraid to call it out. And then he brought up the Nazi costume. You know, the one Harry wore years ago that he desperately wants everyone to forget. Yeah, that one, it always comes back to haunt him. And then you had Simon Brodkin, who just watched their whole Netflix thing and came away hating them even more. Like, that's gotta sting, right? You put all this effort into telling your side of the story, and people end up liking you less than before. He even joked about wanting to attack them after watching 6 episodes. I mean, that's how irritating they were coming across. Kelly Osborne didn't hold back either. She called Harry a whining, winging, complaining mess who acts like he's the only one who's ever had mental health problems. And then she brought up the Nazi costume again. She's like, you can't dress up as a Nazi and then try to rebrand yourself as a global humanitarian. Preach. But the Saturday Night Live sketches, those were brutal. They went right for Meghan's acting career, saying that the only difference between Suits and their Netflix show is that people actually watched Suits. Savage. And then they joked about using Suits as a sleep aid for kids. I mean, come on, that's cold. But it was also hilarious. And then Stephen Colbert jumped in, mocking Meghan's whole "I didn't know what I was signing up for" act. He's like, let me introduce you to this thing called Google. He even gave her a homework assignment telling her to Google Andrew Island and Epstein. Ouch! That's a low blow, but it's also kind of true. She acted like she was completely clueless about the royal family, but it's hard to believe that she didn't do any research before marrying a prince. After they left the royal family, Madame Tussauds yanked their wax figures from the royal display. And Conan O'Brien did a whole bit imagining where they might have ended up with a museum employee character who was disturbingly obsessed with the wax figures. It was so weird and uncomfortable, but also kind of funny. Trevor Noah brought up that clip of Harry asking the CEO of Disney to hook Meghan up with voiceovers. I mean, can you imagine a Prince roaming movie premieres trying to network for his wife's career? The monarchy used to create political alliances through marriage, and now Harry's out here begging Disney executives for favors. It's a total downgrade. Family Guy even nailed it with one joke. Millions from Netflix for no one knows what. And then Meghan's doing sponsored Instagram posts for Del Taco. It's like they left the royal family to get away from the made-up nonsense, but they just replaced it with a different kind of made-up nonsense. But Godfrey, man, he went hard. He went straight for the racism narrative. She's like, I can't believe they were racist. Wait, the whitest family on the planet. He even admitted that he wanted to know what color their kid would be. And he's like, that's not racism. That's basic human curiosity. And he called out Meghan's phony act of being so busy with her wealthy stuff. He just didn't buy it. Even people inside their own social circles started backing away. Remember that yoga studio drama? Meghan showed up and suddenly the whole place turned into a circus. It's like she can't do anything without making it about her. And people are getting tired of it. And then there's Spitting Image. That show got sued for mocking Harry and Meghan. Their videos vanished overnight, wiped clean. They did a parody of Meghan's Netflix show with Love Meghan, and it was brutal. They exposed every fake smile, every stage moment, every overproduced scene. They mocked the dramatic breathwork lessons, the overly poetic flower arranging, the whole thing. The parody was so harsh that someone definitely wanted it gone. And a lot of people think that Meghan and Harry had a hand in the ban, especially after they tried to intimidate South Park. South Park didn't budge, but Spitting Image, much easier to pressure. So what does all this mean for their future? Honestly, they're digging their own graves. Every lawsuit, every attempt to shut down critics, every tone-deaf lifestyle stunt just makes people dislike them even more. They had a chance to rebuild, to be real, to show growth, but instead, they doubled down on performative victimhood. And it's not working. People are seeing through it and they're not buying what they're selling anymore. It's like they're stuck in this cycle of complaining and blaming, and it's just pushing people further away. They need to change their strategy or they're going to end up fading into irrelevance. Honestly, it's like they're allergic to good PR. Remember that whole privacy tour thing? Like you're trying to sell yourselves as these down-to-earth, relatable people, but you're jetting around the world complaining about the paparazzi. It doesn't add up. And then they try to sue people for taking pictures of their kids. I get wanting to protect your family, but it just comes across as so hypocritical when you're constantly seeking attention. And the thing is, they're not even good at being famous. Like, they're not funny, they're not interesting, they're just there. They're famous for being famous, and that's never a good recipe for long-term success. Look at the Kardashians. They actually work at being famous. They're constantly creating content, they're building businesses, they're doing something. Harry and Meghan, they just complain and expect everyone to feel sorry for them. It's like they think being a victim is a personality trait, and it's not. People get tired of hearing the same sob story over and over again. Especially when that sob story involves living in a mansion and having millions of dollars. And the thing that really gets me is the constant comparisons to Princess Diana. Like, yes, what happened to her was a tragedy, but Harry is not his mother, and Meghan is definitely not his mother. They're trying to use her legacy to gain sympathy, but it's not working. It just feels manipulative. And don't even get me started on the book. Who needs that much detail about Harry's frostbitten Todger? Seriously, some things are better left unsaid. And the fact that he aired all of his family's dirty laundry in public, that's just low. I mean, I get that he had a difficult childhood, but a lot of people have difficult childhoods. They don't all write tell-all memoirs and then complain about the media attention. It's like he wants to be left alone, but he also wants to be famous. And you can't have it both ways. And the thing is, the royal family isn't perfect. They've made mistakes. They're out of touch. But at least they understand the role they play. They understand that they're supposed to be symbols of stability and tradition. Harry and Meghan, they just seem to want to tear everything down. And for what? To sell books? To get Netflix deals? It just feels so cynical, like they're exploiting their family for personal gain. And the worst part is, they're not even good at it. Like, their Netflix content is boring. Their podcast is boring. Their interviews are boring. They're just not that